Hello internet dwellers, this is D and welcome to my vlog. So, today I'm going to be delving into one of the deep philosophical themes that heavily influenced my favorite anime of all time, Tokyo Ghoul. Quick side note, if this post sounds a little biased, that's probably because it is. I love this anime so much. Maybe it's because I was a hardcore edgelord back in my high school days, or maybe I'm a hipster who just likes to like things that most people don't like. Regardless, whether you love it or hate it, Tokyo Ghoul is just stuffed with all kind of philosophical subtext. Some are implied and might only crop up in every other episode, while others are shoved in your face non-stop. One of the recurring things that I feel so I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'm going to butcher this name. I don't know how to pronounce this at all. It's Sui Ishida's, we're gonna call him Shui Ishida. Shui Ishida's creation, TG, is built around the idea of morality. However, before we can dig in on this topic, let's make sure we're all on the same page. This post will be exclusively about the anime, not the manga. They follow each other pretty closely for the most part, but later on they split in some really dramatic ways. So to keep down confusion, I just want to clarify that. And this is also going to contain spoilers. Anyways, let's get into the gig. So, in order to make sure that everyone is refreshed on this 5-year-old anime, let's go through a brief summary of the plot. The first scene we see is a room full of corpses and blood. In the center of this gory mess, we see the silhouette of a young woman eating the dead corpses. She ends up running to a man who's been ordered to capture her, but she manages to escape. Here we transition to a quaint little coffee shop named Anteku. Here we meet our main protagonist, Ken Kaneki. Kaneki is sitting with his childhood best friend, Hide, as they talk about cute girls they'd be interested in dating. Innocent Kaneki eventually talks to the young lady by the name of Rize. They eventually go out on a date, and at the end of this date, Kaneki decides to walk Rize home due to the rising amount of ghoul predation incidents. And just as a side note, ghouls are creatures that have to eat human flesh in order to survive. Unfortunately, ghouls can only get nourishment from human flesh, and anything else can potentially poison them aside from coffee. However, Kaneki will soon see the lethal mistake he's made when Rize goes in for a sweet kiss, but instead of following through with the kiss, she bites a chunk of flesh from his shoulder. Kaneki survives the attack, but would not live very long without an immediate organ transplant. Now, most people who went through a similar situation to this can tell you that obtaining an organ that's also compatible with the person in need of the organ is a very grueling and arduous process. And you usually get put on an ever-growing list of people who need a transplant just as badly as the next person. Yet Kaneki gets an implant only minutes before he was about to get eaten by Rize, the glutton, and had ghoul organs transplanted in his body, making him a hybrid of ghoul and human. Throughout the show, we see Kaneki learn to accept himself and to be brave enough to protect those he loves. Along the way, he has to make tough choices to protect those he loves while also trying to maintain his identity as a good person. Now, we can talk about morality. What is morality and where does it come from? This is a question many great philosophers have attempted to answer, yet no one has ever been able to create a definitive answer to this question. If you asked a man of faith, he'd probably say that morality is a gift given to humans by God. If the Bible says it's okay, God says it's okay, and vice versa with the concept of evil. Other philosophers would say morality is a social construct built by the members of a shared community, like how we have laws. However, honestly, that's not the kind of question that you can actually answer with a right versus wrong mentality. Morality is completely subjective on an individual level, but still we have laws that the majority of people can agree upon to some extent. Like murder. We can all agree that senseless murder is bad and murderers should be punished accordingly. But Tokyo Ghoul does a great job at blurring the black and white view on morality. It's an anime that never portrays anyone as all evil or all good. They take the ideal of good and evil and they put it on the spectrum. For instance, Kaneki gets turned into a ghoul in the first episode, and the only thing ghouls can eat without poisoning themselves is human flesh. But he's half human, which technically makes him a cannibal. But is he wrong for this? He was changed without consent, and he has no desire to end his own life. He's a young man going into the prime years of his life, and he had just started college. Would you call it lion evil for killing a buffalo? Same concept, but one has us, humans, in a prey position. Most people, especially people who live in the first world country, tend to be ridiculously judgmental, and we love to stand on our soapbox and moral superiority when we think a criminal who's only committed crimes because this person might not have any skills or opportunities, or at least they think they don't, in order to survive. But ghouls aren't the only ones in this world that commit monstrous acts. Let's talk about the CCG, the Commissioner of Counter Ghouls. We meet a lot of characters connected to the CCG, most of them human, but one of its most effective members goes by the name of Kureo Mato. Now, let's call a spade a spade. Investigator Mato is brutal. If you're a ghoul, he's eventually going to kill you. He has not met a single ghoul that he hasn't tried to kill, no questions asked. He is even willing to kill Hinami, a young girl no older than 12 years old, the same brutality he's more than happy to inflict on a grown ghoul. Now, at first glance, it's clear that Mato is not a good person. He's able to kill a ghoul child and feel zero remorse, even though she looks human in every way. Mind you, it's also worth noting that she wouldn't be able to defend herself. He's literally a snake sneaking into a nest and eating the eggs. But this is all turned upside down when we find out after his death that Mato actually lost his wife when fighting ghouls that threatened to kill their entire unit. His wife sacrificed herself that Mato could stay alive and raise their only daughter, Akira Mato. I think we can all agree that murder is bad, but what would you do knowing that these monsters are out there in the streets, lurking in the shadows, ready for their next meal? The person who not only killed your wife, but also ate her is still running around free and completely unpunished. Is he evil? I find it hard to just label him indefinitely as evil. Now, let's talk about Rize for a moment. So, the ghoul's organs that got stitched into him after his situation with Rize originally belonged to Rize, which is why certain characters would notice that his kagune, their predatory organ that gives them their super strength and their super speed. Think of a kagune as a liquid prehensile tail made up of super flexible muscle tissues. They can harden their kagune to pierce through steel, or they can use them to snare enemies. Looked very familiar to Rize's, or they say that he smells like a female ghoul, more specifically Rize, due to being mashed together as one entity. Rize became a part of his personality. He held all of her darkest desires within her. She was his hunger, and she was his drive to make him do what he has to do in the end. At the end of season 1, episode 12, Rize has this amazing dialogue about morality with Kaneki, teaching to show him that good and evil isn't always clear. Kaneki's mother always taught him that so long as you have kindness in your heart, you'll never be truly hurt, because you took the high road, the morally righteous decision to not react to others in violence. He believes in this so vehemently that he said, and I quote, "It is far better to feel pain yourself than inflict it on others, even those who might deserve a little pain." And Rize takes the words right out of my mouth. She calls him a fool. He would rather sit on the fence than fight for his family at Ontaku. While Kaneki sees his mother's kindness as a blessing, Rize thinks it's cruel and weak of her to say that. His mother literally worked herself to death. She worked 2 jobs and collected trash as an odd job. She even helped her younger sisters with her bills, even though her little sister had been unemployed for quite some time and had no plans on getting a job. Rize reasons that if she was truly a kind and caring mother, she would have stopped enabling her little sister and wouldn't have to worry about working 3 jobs. If she were truly so kind and loving, she would have spent more time raising Kaneki. She would choose her son over everything else, but she didn't do that. And as a result, this left her young child orphans, living off the government and completely isolated. In trying to be nice to everyone, she showed her ultimate responsibility, her child, her own flesh and blood, the most blatant and uncaring level of cruelty shown in this entire anime. Did being kind make her a good person? No, not really. She neglected her child and left him with no guidance in this massive, cruel world. Take a second and look at how we treat parents that neglect their children. I think it's safe to assume that parents that do that are not looked upon with a favorable eye. Anyways, I think it's time we wrap this post up because it's hella long and this was stressful, especially considering this was supposed to be up a week ago. But I didn't fathom just how far this rabbit hole went. It was pretty deep to say the least. Like, there are so many other scenes that I could have talked about here. I wanted to choose examples that could really portray the point of this post. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I feel really part of upload. I was trying to make it like powerful and meaningful, but I'm gonna let y'all be the judge of that. So, on to the question of the day. What are some of your favorite scenes that play with the concept of morality and how we interpret that sort of idea? It doesn't have to be confined to Tokyo Ghoul, but I'd certainly like to hear from other Tokyo Ghoul fans because, man, I really love this anime and manga, even though they butchered season 3 of the anime, and it kind of hurt, but I'm hoping that we get a season 4, and I'm hoping that it is so much better than the 3rd season because that was trash. Anyways, stay classy, y'all. Bye.